Hello, welcome to Jennifer's Magical Book Club. Today I am going to read a novel which is called The Cove of the Wild. I'm going to continue reading from page 5 on the top of the page. So I'm going to start. You might wrap up the goods before you deliver 'em. The stranger said gruffly, and Manuel doubled a piece of stout rope around Buck's neck or under the collar. Twist it, and you'll choke 'em plenty, said Manuel, and the stranger grunted a ready affirmative. Buck had accepted the rope with quiet dignity. To be sure, it was an unwanted performance, but he had learned to trust in men he knew and to give them credit for wisdom that outreached his own. But when the ends of the rope were placed in the stranger's hands, he growled menacingly. He had merely intimated his displeasure, and in his pride believing that to intimate was to command. But to his surprise, the rope tightened around his neck, shutting off his breath. In a quick rage, he sprang at the man, who met him halfway, grappled him close by the throat, and with a deft twist threw him over on his back. Then the rope tightened mercilessly, while Buck struggled in a fury, his tongue lolling out of his mouth and his great chest panting futilely. Never in all his life had he been so vilely treated, and never in all his life had he been so angry. But his strength ebbed, his eyes glazed, and he knew nothing when the train was flagged and the two men threw him into the baggage car. The next he knew, he was dimly aware that his tongue was hurting and that he was being jolted along in some kind of a conveyance. The hoarse shriek of a locomotive whistling a crossing told him where he was. He had traveled too often with the judge not to know the sensation of riding in a baggage car. He opened his eyes, and into them came the unbridled anger of a kidnapped king. The men sprang for his throat, but Buck was too quick for him. His jaws closed on the hand, nor did they relax till his senses were choked out of him once more. Yap has fits, the man said, hiding his mangled hand from the baggage man, who had been attracted by the sounds of struggle. I'm taking up for the boss to Frisco. A crack dog doctor there thinks that he can cure him. Concerning that night's ride, the man spoke most eloquently for himself in a little shed back of a saloon on the San Francisco waterfront. All I got is $50 for it, he grumbled, and I wouldn't do it over for 1,000 cold cash. His hand was wrapped in a bloody handkerchief, and the right trouser leg was ripped from knee to ankle. How much did the other mug get? The saloon keeper demanded. 100, was the reply. Wouldn't take a solace, so help me. That makes 150. The saloon keeper calculated. And he's worth it, or I'm a squarehead. The kidnapper undid the bloody wrappings and looked at his lacerated hand. If I don't get the hydrophobia, it will be because you was born to hang, laughed the saloon keeper. Here, lend me a hand before you pull your frights, he added. days, suffering intolerable pain from throat and tongue, with the life half throttled out of him, Buck attempted to face his tormentors. But he was thrown down and shocked repeatedly till they succeeded in filling the heavy brass collar from off his neck. Then the rope was removed and he was flung into a cage-like crate. There he lay for the remainder of the weary night, nursing his wrath and wounded pride. He could not understand what it all meant. What did they want with him, these strange men? Why were they keeping him pent up in this narrow crate? He didn't know why, but he felt oppressed by the vague sense of impending calamity. Several times during the night he sprang to his feet when the shed door rattled open, expecting to see the judge or the boys at least. But each time it was the bulging face of the saloon keeper that peered in at him by the sickly light of a tallow candle, and each time the joyful bark that trembled in Buck's throat was twisted into a savage growl. But the saloon keeper let him alone, and in the morning 4 men entered and picked up the crate. More tormentors, Buck decided, for they were evil-looking creatures, ragged and unkempt, and he stormed at and raged at them through the bars. They only laughed and poked sticks at him, which he promptly assailed with his teeth till he realized that that was what they wanted. Whereupon he laid down sullenly and allowed the crate to be lifted into a wagon. Then he and the crate in which he was imprisoned began a passage through many hands. Clerks in the express office took charge of him. He was carted about in another wagon. A truck carried him with an assortment of boxes and parcels up on a ferry steamer. He was tucked off the steamer into a great rail depot, and finally he was deposited in an express car. For 2 days and nights an express car was dragged along at the tail of shrieking locomotives, and for 2 days and nights Buck neither ate nor drank. In his anger, he had met the first advances of the express managers with growls, and they had retaliated by teasing him. When he flung himself against the bars, quivering and frothing, they laughed at him and taunted him. They growled and barked like detestable dogs, meowed and flapped their arms and crowded. It was all very silly, he knew, but therefore for the more outrage to his dignity, and his anger waxed and waxed. He did not mind the hunger so much, but the lack of water caused him severe suffering and fanned his wrath to fever pitch. For that matter, high-strung and finely sensitive, the ill treatment had flung him into a fever which was fed by the inflammation of his parched and swollen throat and tongue. So I'm done reading till page 9 and in the middle of the page, and I hope you're enjoying the book The Call of the Wild with me. Thank you. Have a nice day. See you later.